From one Tea Party congressman who voted yes, we now turn to one who voted no in the recent debt compromise. Florida Republican Congressman Connie Mack, it's a pleasure. Welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge.
I don't want you to get personal with him, but does he even know what he's talking about?
Of course he knows what he's talking about. And he's a colleague, and, you know, all of us come to decisions in different ways. So I don't have any problem with the way that other members came to their decisions. I just happen to disagree. I believe that we cannot continue to spend money we don't have. $1.6 trillion in deficits a year. $14.5 trillion deficit, debt right now. And with this passage of this bill, we guarantee we'll be at $17 trillion of debt. If the federal government was an individual, that individual couldn't get a credit card because their debt to income ratio is so out of whack.
Your colleague, Congressman Grimm, made a very interesting statement at the end of my conversation with him, and that is we have to get rid of the deficits first, and then we can pay back the debt. Will we ever get rid of the deficits with a government so addicted to borrowing, with so-called conservative Republicans voting to let it borrow more and spend cash that it doesn't have and never intends to repay?
You know, that is the question that all of us are asking, and we had an opportunity with this debt ceiling increase to do that. I don't think the bill that we passed did that. I don't think until we get serious about, and you hit it when you were in your interview, right now, every year we spend more money than the year before. We need to stop that trajectory. We can't continue to spend more, especially since we're borrowing that money from other countries like China.
Isn't it misleading for those who support this bill, which is now law, the president signed it the other day, to say it cuts spending in the future, when in reality it reduces the rate of increase? But it doesn't cut spending. Spending continues to go up. If you look at the chart of what the president wanted to spend, if you look at the chart, there it is, of what the president will spend under this, A, you can barely see a difference between the two lines of what he wants and what he's going to get. But more importantly, B, both lines continue to go up. More and more and more spending every year.
And that's right. And, Judge, that's why I introduced my penny plan. Because what we do in the penny plan is we say we freeze spending. No more automatic increases in spending year after year. We freeze it. And then we take 1% a year. That's 1 penny out of every federal dollar.
Across the board.
Well, first, the Congress and the president can work together to make the 1% cut. If the Congress and the president fail to act, then it's across the board. So one way or another, we're going to make those cuts. And it's not based on a baseline that goes up 7.5%, 8% a year, but it's a flat line and go down. We actually got to stop.
Now,
it is impossible to me.
Why wasn't something like that seriously considered by the so-called fiscal conservatives who are the leaders of the Republicans in the House?
Well,
instead, they went to the White House and gave the president everything he wanted except new taxes.
Well, let me just say this. We started this about 6 weeks ago, and frankly, it wasn't part of the conversation until the last 2 or 3 weeks. So
it's a very sensible proposal.
I think it's one that makes sense. Everyone watching the show tonight has had to take more than 1 penny out of their home budget, out of every dollar of their home budget, or 1 penny out of every dollar of their business budget.
I want to ask you a question substantially similar to what I asked Congressman Grimm. Was the concept that the debt ceiling would never go up, or would not go up this time, and the president would be forced to operate the government just on the $250 billion I'm averaging that the government collects each month in taxes? Was that ever seriously considered by Republicans in the House?
I don't think that was ever seriously considered.
Well, what would have happened had a majority of Republicans agreed with Connie Mack and voted no? Today is 2 days afterwards. Would we be in default today?
Well, what we would have done is we would have seen a government that would have had to prioritize for the first time, like everybody out there watching the show tonight, Judge, has had to do at home or in their business. The federal government would have had to prioritize for the first time.
We have about 30 seconds left. Will it always be business as usual, or will your dream and my dream and the dream of the people that watch us at night that the government lives within its means ever come to pass?
You know, I think we're heading in the right direction, Judge, and this is the first time in a long time that I've been able to say it. The Tea Party has done an excellent job of refocusing the conversation. I will say this. If it wasn't for those 87 freshman members that came into Congress, Tea Party members, we would have been looking at a bill that potentially raised taxes, I think a lot of credit goes to the new energy in the Congress that says enough is enough.
Congressman Connie Mack from Florida, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming into the studio.
Thank you, Judge.